Welcome back to my channel, Idyll Illum. Bienvenue sur ma chaîne, Idyll Illum. We are going to continue where we left off last night with this magazine, the Law Magazine Verdict. If you're new, welcome. I try and read to you guys every single night. That is my goal for this month. And today, or tonight, we are going to cover family law. That is the article that we will read right now. Most seemingly well-defined practice areas turn out, upon closer inspection, to contain yet further subdivisions and specialisms. The work of family lawyers can be categorized in any number of different ways, but divides quite sharply along private law and public law lines. Also, it says, family law from heart-wrenching to high net worth. The former broadly covers disputes within families, such as divorce and the associated arrangements for finances and children. Public law involves state intervention in the family, which can culminate in what critics call the forced adoption of children removed from their birth parents. The result is that family practice is a much broader spectrum than most, with clients ranging from high net worth, aka filthy rich, divorcees to desperate parents facing care proceedings. Legal aid, for obvious reasons, is still available for the latter, but the infamous Legal Aid Sentencing and Punishment of Offenders Act 2012, also known as LASPO, removed financial assistance from most private family work. It's unfortunate. One lawyer who straddles this divide is Anne-Marie Hutchinson. She's a partner at Dawson Cornwell. That's her. The firm's central London offices are nothing if not reassuring to the well-heeled. Art catalogues are scattered around the reception room. But Hutchinson is a former legal aid lawyer of the year, the result of her work for victims of forced marriage. The honorary QC, Queen's Counsel, is also an expert on child abduction, as well as other knotty problems of international law thrown up when children are taken across borders. It was for this work that Hutchinson was awarded her OBE, Order of the British Empire, a somewhat ironic tag for someone born in rural Ireland. But Hutchinson tells Verdict, such specialisms are best developed later in one's career. I get loads of letters from people who want to work with me straight out of the degree, and they go straight in the bin, Hutchinson jokes. No, I do answer them, but I say come back to me when you've got some more experience and we'll take a look. A fervent desire to work with vulnerable clients is no substitute for practical legal experience, which can be perfectly well built up in a completely different field. Dawson Cornwell associate Sulima Jahangir, for example, trained at Freshfields before becoming a family lawyer. Changing horses mid-race seems to be quite common. Aisha Vardag, founder of the eponymous firm, had a conventional career as a city solicitor before her transformation into the Queen of Divorce. Copyright Daily Mail. I think it would be a mistake to specialize too early on. If you're too narrow, you miss things. Hutchinson explains, if you've got an agenda, you overlook inconsistencies that you should have spotted or fail to ask the right questions. Hutchinson herself began in the rag trade, civil litigation for clothing manufacturers, before moving into family. The transition was admittedly rather tinged with sexism. When I was starting out, it was, you're a girl, you can help Jack with the family stuff, Hutchinson says of her early exposure to the field. The overt gender stereotyping may have faded, but men still tend to choose other areas. Like many family firms, Dawson Cornwell has only a handful of male associates. The recruiting for a 2020 training contract, chaps. However you get there, it's worth reiterating the obvious. The stakes in family are higher than any other area of law, with the possible exception of crime. We're dealing with impersonal outcomes. What's the worst thing that can happen in a commercial or employment case? You lose some money. In a family case, you can lose your kids, Hutchinson points out. As a result, empathy and the ability to deal sensitively with emotional clients without turning into a mere shoulder to cry on are a must. In a field of practice that turns on human relationships, out-and-out technical specialists with no soft skills or life experience are unlikely to thrive. While I found financial law intellectually very interesting, Vardock told BBC in a 2017 interview, very few people directly cared about what you were doing. The visceral stakes explain the consistently high profile of family court proceedings. Although in an age where specialist legal journalists are rare and court reporters are a dying breed, you might not recognize your case by the time it's been through the media mangle. The tragic case of brain-damaged Charlie God, which pitted parents desperate for a cure against doctors certain that none existed, was picked up by the right-wing US press as an example of socialized medicine, rationing care to sick babies. It was much more complicated than that, obviously, but that didn't stop US Vice President Mike Pence from weighing in. The antics of the Fathers for Justice group similarly aim to highlight the perceived inequities of the family justice system based on what many professionals consider a flawed understanding of how it all works. Despite the huge public interest, family law is notoriously slow to change. Part 2 of the Family Law Act 1996, which would have introduced a form of no-fault divorce, was famously never implemented. That means that in 2018, the Supreme Court was still reluctantly telling Mrs. Tinnie Owens that she had to stay married to Mr. Owens, as she hadn't established that the marriage had irretrievably broken down. With Brexit taking up much of the government's time and energy reforming the divorce system, banning alleged domestic abusers from cross-examining their victims, or allowing opposite-sex couples to get civil partnerships are not high on the political agenda. The good news from a commercial point of view is that family law is seen as fairly recession-proof. When the banking crisis happened, family lawyers became busier. Teresa Davidson of Irwin Mitchell told Target Jobs in a recent interview, clients find a way to pay their family lawyer. And I want to say thank you so much for joining me again tonight. And I hope you will join me tomorrow night as we will move on to media law. And I hope you all have a good sleep. Good night.